At the end, you will all be tested. So to Kadatu, the center of the aerospace testing universe. So I'm Major Liz Moyer here. I get to serve as your FSS commander, and we get to introduce the vice commander here for Edwards Air Force Base. So for those that are online, we'd like to welcome you today. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're listening for the recording, we're really excited. This workforce coalition is amazing. And so to each and every one that's here, we have amazing speakers today, and I'm really excited for us to be able to talk and get after this talent gap that we see and partner with academia and industry. So for Senator McCarthy, Mr. Lopez, thank you so much for being here today. And then for all of our distinguished guests, thank you so much. We're so excited. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our Vice Commander, Colonel Kaspers.
Thanks, Liz. Out there, got the mic check, good. All right, I don't know where I should stand. I'll go here, but I'm really excited to be here. So like Liz said, I'm Matt Kaspers, Vice Commander here of the 412 Test Wing. And on behalf of Brigadier General Matt Heiger, the Commander of the 412 Test Wing, welcome to this really awesome event that they've got planned all day. I was really excited when I saw the agenda and who's here to actually talk about getting after a lot of these talent gaps and building the educational workforce that we need here in the Aerospace Valley, here at the center of the aerospace testing universe. So if you could go to the next chart, please. So what I'm really going to do here, since I know we have a lot of folks out in virtual land who are watching, if we can go to the next chart, I really just kind of want to set the baseline for what is the 412 Test Wing, where are we, what do we do, and just kind of set that baseline. I hope the charts move, but I'm going to go ahead and start briefing the next chart. So bottom line, 412 Test Wing is a part of the, do I have a clicker? Oh, maybe I do. Let's try it. Hey, look at that. Here we go.
I can click for you if you'd like.
I got it. We're good. I think I'm checked out. Nope, I don't know. I'm taking my clicker check ride right now on camera. Oh, man. I may need a tech assist.
There we go. You can start.
Or maybe there's a lot of phase lag. I don't know. So we'll see. Maybe it'll all catch up. Bottom line, what do we do here? The 412 Test Wing is part of, when it comes to the total Air Force, 412 Test Wing sits inside Air Force Materiel Command, which is the 90,000 strong airmen, so that's military and civilian, roughly, scattered across 6-7 bases across the Air Force. That's principally responsible for developing and fielding and sustaining our war-winning capabilities for our warfighter. Then we're inside the Air Force Test Center, and that is one of 6 centers within Air Force Materiel Command that is our charge there is to test those systems. So before they go out to the field and before they go out to our warfighter, we collaborate with the program offices across Air Force Materiel Command. We collaborate with the sustainment centers. We collaborate with the Nuke Weapons Center, all those program offices that are building these capabilities with our vendor partners. And this is really where the rubber meets the road for the first time, where we do the firsts of so many different weapon systems, and we build the data and the understanding of what we're going to do and before we push it out into the field and start working with our operational testers and our warfighters. And then here in the 412 Test Wing, we are one of 3 wings within the Air Force Test Center. So we're here at Edwards Air Force Base. Our sister wing, the 96 Test Wing, is down at Eglin Air Force Base. And we have the Arnold Engineering and Development Complex in Tennessee. And what's really unique, and you'll see as we go through this on why the 412th is the 412th and where we're at, each of those installations and what they do is also very unique based on where they are, right? AEDC, the Arnold Engineering Development Complex in Tennessee, it's really there, and its pedigree is because of the wind tunnels that we have from World War II, dating all the way back to World War II, that we needed power from the Tennessee Valley Authority, and that's really how AEDC came to be there. Eglin is on the Gulf Range, which is really another national asset to have a range of warm water so close where we can train and fight over. And Edwards is where it is because of the dry lake bed and what we did there. And we'll touch a little bit about that. But that really is a national asset that helps us get after our primary mission. But here along the bottom, you see this is really what we do every day. Now, like I said, we're developing the capabilities, and we aren't using those capabilities in the principal Air Force warfighting mission every day. However, we still have airmen that deploy today, and they need to be ready airmen, right? So you think our defenders, our medics, and many of the other base operations and support type personnel, civil engineering, environmental, a lot of those career fields do have a readiness component, and so we continue to do that here every day. The other piece in the cyber domain. And while the best offense is a strong defense, every one of the airmen here in the 412 Test Wing is in competition in the cyber domain. Everything that we do every day, both in our jobs and in our personal lives, is captured here in the cyber domain. And it is even more critical for us as we embark on our modernization fight. So that's our principal mission here, like I said, in the 412 Test Wing, which is, as you can see here, that's a picture, an artist rendering of the B-21. But large integration of platform level capabilities, that is principally what we do here at Edwards, and it all ties back to our history with that lake bed and being able to have the airspace and the range here, we'll talk a little bit about that, to be able to actually test these things and do elevated risk testing for the very first time. And that's the kind of thing that we do here at the 412 Test Wing. Next chart, if you wouldn't mind, Liz. All right, so I gave you a little bit of preamble. We'll see if the video plays.
This is where barriers are broken. This is where records are set. This is the edge of what we're capable of. Every milestone in aerospace history has seen these skies. This is where we stood on the shoulders of giants and saw the future. To fly faster, longer, and safer. To make our warriors stronger and our enemies tremble. Our mission is test. Our goal is to find the unknown. And we go further. We set the standard. We are innovators. We will not accept the status quo. The warfighter depends on us to be agile, responsive, and accurate. Our success is theirs. Before aircraft leave the ground, before weapons find their mark, there is test. A community of professionals chasing excellence in all we do. Every member of our team serves. Each play a part in accomplishing this test mission. We brought the F-35 to operational capability. We modernized the fleet to fly for years to come. We tested radar systems to precision. We made airdrops more efficient. Parachutes more dependable. Airmen safer. Test pilots are trained here. Airframes are developed here. Autonomous flight is a reality. Every day we achieve more than yesterday. Flight test is the first step. The mission expands and our dynamics grow. The future is on its way at hypersonic speed. Our work is never finished. The sky was the limit, but not anymore. We are the 412th Test Wing.
Go to the next, there we go. Okay, so I love that video, right? I've seen it a gazillion times, but every time it still gives me goosebumps because that's what we do here. And you know what? You can see everyone who is a part of Team Edwards can see themselves in that video of what it is that we do. And I think it really encapsulates, what we're after, which is that getting the data for the warfighter so that we can understand where these weapon systems need to go. All right, so this is the command team and our wing leadership. You can see Brigadier General Heiger at the boss. Here at Edwards, we have a top 5, and it's a fairly diverse group. So I'm a flight test engineer, not a pilot by trade. We've got Mr. Dan Osborne, our Chief Civilian and Tech Director. We've got Colonel Manning, who brings in that total force. He's our reservist to reserve IMA to General Heiger. And then our command chief, D. Ward Swanigan, she's a comm troop by trade. So we've got a very wide variety of backgrounds. And then across the bottom, you can see the 10 group equivalents. So Edwards is a really large functional base, and it has a relatively large, roughly 11,000 total force population, but a relatively small active duty component, very large civilian. So big A airmen is really what we're thinking about here. Next chart, please. Okay, we're not going to dwell on this. I already gave you the numbers. Really large functionally. Next chart, please. That's your standard wiring diagram just to kind of set the baseline. But this is really what I want you to think about. This is how we organize to get after that modernization mission. And one of the things that we do here is we take people from all of those wiring diagrams you saw on the chart before, and we matrix those folks into what we call the CTF, the Combined Test Force. And General Heiger likes to say, if you've seen one CTF, you have seen one CTF, right? Each one of them is a little bit different, right? They are tailored to the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. And we generally organize them around some sort of specific either platform capability or a larger Air Force capability that we're trying to get after. But what we do is we take engineers, we take operators, we take maintainers, we take electronic warfare analysts. We pull them all together into a cohesive team that's then organized under one of these capabilities to move out on our actual flight test mission. Next chart. But we couldn't do it with just our 412 test wing. We also are partnered here on the installation with all of these folks. And then we partner with a much even greater list of patches across the nation as we're working, like I said before, with our program offices and with the warfighter to actually get after what we need here. Next chart, please. Okay, so General Heiger has said over and over again from the day that he took the guide on, we are at the center of the aerospace testing universe. Takata 2 for short, since that can be a mouthful. But if you think about where Edwards is located, you think about our history, you think about where we're going, and you just draw a 100 nautical mile circle around Edwards, the amount of things that are happening in that circle is just absolutely extraordinary. So geographically, it really is, in our opinion, the center of the aerospace testing universe. Most recently, the rollout of the B-21 radar in December at the plant with our industry partners north of Grumman. There's been a tremendous amount of hypersonic activity, which is very relevant in our competition with the PRC. You can see, the first Strata launch up at Mojave. So there's a whole lot of things that are happening in this community, and it is aerospace focused. Next chart, please. Okay, and all of that comes back to our history. I won't dwell too long on this, but there are just a couple of really interesting nuggets I like to highlight. Up there like I said in the beginning, it all started with the lake bed, coming out here to Muroc and the lake bed. And that picture, second from the left there at the top left, is a battleship. It is a wooden battleship out on the Muroc dry lake bed. And that was to help our early crews in the Pacific train for dive bombing and improve their accuracy on this dry lake bed for combat in the Pacific. Obviously, front and center there, we've got Brigadier General Chuck Yeager standing in front of the Bell X-1 as he led that team to break the sound barrier. As of it was October of 2022, where we had the Aerospace Valley Open House, which was the first one of those that we'd had in 13 years, I believe. We celebrated the 75th anniversary of supersonic flight. So talking about breaking barriers and teams breaking barriers, and we renamed the supersonic corridor that is overhead of Edwards Air Force Base, which gives us the privilege of getting boomed by all those jets all the time, the Bell X-1 supersonic corridor, which was a pretty extraordinary historic event. And then there, fourth from the right, is Captain Glenn Edwards, the namesake for Edwards Air Force Base, who was killed in June of 1948 when a YB-49 bomber prototype crashed. And, you know, as part of that history legacy, he was flying the first all-jet flying wing bomber prototype. And you can see that legacy pulled through the B-2 and now through to the B-21. Basically, if it flew and it was in our, was or is in our inventory, at some point it was tested here at Edwards, and that's going to continue to be the case going forward. Next chart, please. Okay, we like to put this in here just to help baseline everyone who hasn't had the opportunity of driving the installation and getting out to see quite how expansive it is. I know that it's a little bit of an artist rendition. We're taking some artist license with the actual geography of Washington, D.C. We didn't get the cutout for Virginia just right, but that 495 Beltway loop around the outside, when you're commuting in from Rosamond, you're well outside the 495 on your way to your main work site here to, you know, which is essentially at the Washington Monument there for your work site now. Now, granted, traffic's a little better here, I think, but you know, that yellow line is the actual border of the installation, the federal jurisdiction line. And you can see notionally down there as well, approximately Lancaster and Palmdale. So our workforce is commuting a pretty significant distance in, but we have that large installation, if you would, next chart, please, to be able to do the kinds of things that we need to do here. Again, center of the aerospace testing universe, we are sitting underneath a massive airspace complex known as the R2508 Airspace Complex, which, if I believe I checked my facts right, it is roughly twice the size of New Jersey. So that's pretty big. It is very remote, right? So it still keeps us away from prying eyes, but more importantly, safe, right? So when we're doing things for the first time and things are falling off of airplanes intentionally, you know, we're able to keep the public safe, and we're able to keep our airmen safe. Another big thing, weather. If you like flying, 342 VFR flying days a year, it is absolutely extraordinary. You can't beat it. Turns out the Thunderbirds also figured that out, and they just left us last Saturday after spending their first winter training here with us. So that was 2 weeks where the Thunderbirds was training with us. So they've come to appreciate both that and the airspace as well. If you would, next chart. Would not be complete if we didn't talk about Air Force Plant 42. So the 412 Test Wing is also responsible for the common areas and the base operating and support of Air Force Plant 42. So Plant 42, its principal mission is a government-owned, contractor-operated industrial complex for the production of our warfighting capabilities. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, plus NASA are all co-located at Air Force Plant 42. Next chart, please. Oh, one more, go back one more. So we have a giant mission, but it takes an awful lot to get all that done. Now, granted, I know a lot of what y'all will talk about a lot today, going to be workforce and talent, and a lot of that is going to be STEM focused for sure, right? The needs of engineers to train engineers, but it's not just engineers. It takes a tremendous amount to be able to support that kind of capability and to do so at a remote and isolated installation like this. So when we talk about the whole suite of things and opportunities that there are here at Edwards Air Force Base, it's pretty extraordinary. It is quite the effort to keep up 60 miles of lakebed runway. So when we talk about national asset, that is an extraordinary, both natural, but also the things that we need to do to maintain that and make sure that it's still a landable surface. 8 miles of paved runway is also nothing to sneeze at. But the installation at 308,000 acres is an enormous installation to both protect, and in a number of areas there's no fence line, right? It's the natural desert, and obviously the technologies that our defenders bring to bear in all of that. And then I will not read all the rest of the facts to you, but 255 miles of waistlines and 195 miles of wastewater lines. That I have to say, I recently had an opportunity to go tour the waste treatment plant, and that was absolutely extraordinary. And those are the kinds of things that you just take for granted. But at an installation like this, every single one of these things matters, and quite frankly, we need people who are interested and love what they do. And I'm excited to say that down there at the waste treatment plant love what they do. And then at the very bottom, cut off a little bit there, but there's now a 3,000 plus acre solar farm. It says under construction, but the last time I gave this brief, that was the case. Now we need to line through that. The ribbon has been cut as of last Thursday, and that is now up and running. So that is a very exciting partnership that we look forward to the fruit that bears. And if you would, next chart, please. I'm going to close out with talking a little bit about innovation. I think one of the things that our history and our culture here at Edwards just primes us for innovation. And I just wanted to highlight and kind of close with, these are some of the things and examples that our airmen in our community have come together to innovate on. The FOX, the Fighter Optimization Experiment, that is a tablet that was running third-party, free and open source software on the F-22 for the very first time. And the F-35 program office actually picked that up as well and is exploring that option. So that's just one example of some of the many things that our airmen, and I say big A airmen, right, military and civilian, have come together from a very grassroots effort to say, hey, I've got a good idea, and what can we do with it? And I think a lot of that comes from the culture here, and it is something that we prioritize and we resource. And so going forward, I think this is just another one of those things that really speaks to the culture and what it is that we do here, doing things for the very first time. So with that, I think I'm all done. And if there are any other questions, I think I'm a little ahead of time, but I think that's all I've got. Really excited that you're here. This is a great forum, and I'm going to hand it back off over to Liz. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate it.
Sir, thank you so much for being here. For those that are in the audience, I know you're not getting the speaker, but anyone that is speaking up here today will have the mic, and that way our audience in virtual land can hear us today. So without further ado, next on our agenda, ma'am, if you can come up, Dr. Gerald. She'll have a couple of opening remarks, and then we'll keep going. We can have her just for 5 minutes. Yes,
okay,
perfect.
All right.
Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Gerald, Vice Chancellor of Economic and Workforce Development at Kern Community College District, and we are here today really to listen. What we want to do is hear more about the things that you have going on. That was a fantastic presentation. I had a lot of questions. I didn't ask him questions, but we'll be coming back because we want to drill down a little bit. When we hear who you are, what we want to know is what you need and how do we help to build a workforce that is strong enough to take you forward. All of these wonderful things that you're doing, all of the innovation that you're doing. We are, as a community college, we have the mission to build a pipeline of individuals that can work with you to make sure that you have a ready workforce that can help with these skills. I saw electrical, I saw solar, I saw engineering, I saw math, I saw science, I saw English. I saw so much that would be needed for an individual to have those critical thinking skills and to have the knowledge that you will need in order to continue to be strong. So today we're just going to listen, hear what you need, try to assess from that what we can do to build a pipeline to help keep you strong, both for potential employees that may be coming to you, but also your current employees. We need to know what you need so that we can, as educators, we're going to be thinking through an education lens of what we can build to support you. Before we go any farther, let's introduce who's in the room, and then we'll know who's here. Most of our folks are going to be educators, and then we'd like to learn who you are, and then we'll go forward. So we'll start with Tony.
I'm the Deputy Director of Plans and Programs for the 412 Test Wing. I also serve as a legislative liaison.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm told to come out and have you talk into the mic.
Good morning. Stuart Witt, live in Ridgecrest. Was formerly associated with the college for 12 years as a trustee, former test pilot, and a consultant to the college.
No? Okay.
Alexia Sveda, B3K, and definitely coordinating with Saracosa Community College.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Danny Bazell. I am the Chief of Community Relations for the 412 Test Wing Public Affairs Office.
I'm Richard Cohn. I'm the Outreach and Flight Test Lead for AFRL up at Edwards Air Force Base up on the hill.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Cook. I'm the Deputy Director of the 412th Communications Squadron here on Edwards Air Force Base.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Lidke. I'm the Senior Civilian or Civilian Deputy or Technical Advisor, one of those many hats for the 412th Mission Support Group.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carlos Medina, Program Manager of the Bachelor of Science degree program in Industrial Automation and Robotics at Bakersfield College.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Jensen. I'm the Director for Research and Engineering at NASA Armstrong, so I'll be speaking shortly.
Good morning. I'm Corey Marvin, Vice President of Instruction at Saracosa.
Good morning. John McHenry, Dean of Instruction at Saracosa.
And Nicole Griffin, Dean of Career Education at Saracosa Community College.
Good morning. My name is Liz Roselle. I'm Vice President of Instruction Emeritus from Bakersfield College, but I'm serving now as the Senior Advisor to the Kern Community College District Chancellor in the area of energy and baccalaureate degrees.
Good morning, folks. Jake Lopez, representing Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Issue areas include education, energy, and workforce development. Thank you.
I purposely took it back because I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce you to Sean Hancock, who's the president of Saracosa College. And Sean is going to talk a little bit more about what Saracosa is going to do. Saracosa is your primary partner. And so I'm going to hand it over to him and let him talk a little bit.
All right, good morning, and thank you so much for having us here today, and for everyone showing up today. And thank you for all of us joining us in virtual land, as we were saying. Again, I'm Dr. Sean Hancock, President of Saracosa Community College, and I'm going to keep this brief because, again, we want to hear from you. But I did want to share just a couple of things with you first. First of all, Saracosa Community College, as part of Kern Community College District, we're one of 3 colleges, but our service area is the largest service area in California, Saracosa, all the way up above Mammoth Lakes, down to Edwards Air Force Base and over to Tehachapi. So we cover over 18,000 square miles. And so talk about size. We're the center of the universe for education in this area. What I wanted to put out there is an understanding, yes, we are a community college. We specialize in certificate and 2-year degree programs, but we're venturing out into baccalaureate degrees. Legislation has changed to allow us to submit applications for approval to offer a 4-year degree. Our first one for Saracosa is going to be submitted for approval in August for cybersecurity technology. So I want to put that out into your minds that as we move forward, that baccalaureate degrees are not off the table. There are some challenges with regard to not duplicating CSUs and UC programs currently, but there are ways to approach some of the workforce needs from a technology workforce development side of the house. CT, Career Technical Education. So again, we can do not for credit, which is fee-based training. We can do contract education. We can do summer academies. We can do non-credit programs that are short-term career training certificates. We can do specialized courses in a specific platform. I just want to put out all these different options so that you don't feel as though all we can do is a 2-year degree. That's also something that we specialize in. But we have all of these different approaches, professional development opportunities. You come to us and tell us what you need, and we will work with you to see how we can provide that. So I will leave it at that and turn it over. Thank you very much.
Quick mic check, can you hear me? Or would you like me to? Okay, good to go. Alrighty, so I will trust this to Ms. Vargas Ortiz. And so, all right, okay. So we've given you coffee, we've given you sugar, but I want to make sure you're awake here. So Once again, Liz Moyer, and I'm the FSS commander. When we think about FSS, it's this large portfolio, and I have our chief of personnel for all things on the civilian side. She was unable to be here today, but I have some notes from her that I want to read, because the question that I always ask to an individual is, if you could wave the magic wand, right? I want you to imagine, take away any limitations, take away the idea that there's barriers. What would you want? What are you looking for? What is the talent gap that we see here? And then how do we get there, right? So I have some notes from her, a couple of thoughts, but I want to go back to the brief for a moment. I want you to think about what Colonel Kaspers said is that we fight on 3 combat fronts, right? Right now, you have individuals that are at Edwards that are supporting the fight tonight. So we are deploying people, or we have connections to those that are deployed right now for a current fight against a current adversary. And then what we think about is we do have this cyber fight. Every single one of this phone right here, each one of you, we have the adversary that is looking at that from a counterintelligence perspective, and how can we tap into that? So cyber is huge. We run exercises on the installation to make sure that we're fighting in that cyber domain. And then thirdly, we fight for the future, right? We talk about that 2030 flight. Our Chief of Staff, our Secretary of the Air Force, Department of Defense talks about that future fight. And the new National Defense Strategy that has come out really talks about China, so the People's Republic of China being the pacing threat. So what does that look like to be ready for the 2030 fight? So at the biggest picture, thank you again for being here, because our Secretary of Defense says we have to partner with academia and industry. We have to have this whole of government approach to make sure that what we're doing is synced up. But I want you to think about your values. Each one of you in your organization, in your educational background, have personal values, but you also have institutional values. You have values that are important, that when you're teaching your students or when you're talking to your professors, or you're making sure that they understand the values. So for the Air Force, our core values, it was mentioned in the video, we talked about integrity. Integrity first, we talked about service before self, and excellence in all we do. And that is that just foundation. When you raise your right hand, whether you're wearing a uniform like this or whether you're wearing a civilian uniform, those are our core values that we want to help people understand. This is the baseline, because you're not coming into a job here, and you're not even coming into a career. You are part of the profession of arms. And so the challenge that we all have to think about today is, how do we develop and create that profession of arms to fight on those 3 combat fronts that we're faced with? And so we need more than just those core values. And what I want to share with you is the Air Force has foundational institutional values. So regardless of whether I have a professional that is focusing on media, that's flying an aircraft, that's developing something, what are the institutional values that we care about? And I want to make sure that you understand that. So there's 2 kind of buckets I can put them in. But the first type of concept is foundationally, and as an institution, we look at 4 performance areas. We look at, how does someone manage the resources that they're given, right? We all have to steward the resources that we're given. We think about how do we manage our resources? How do we improve the unit that we are part of? How do we lead people? And how do we execute the mission? Each and every day, that is something that we are grading ourselves on and that we're trying to perform to. But when we talk about how do we develop in those 4 areas, the way I remember it is MILE, but that there are different ones. So, manage, like I said, manage resources, improve the unit. How do we lead people? How do we execute the mission? Foundationally, when we want to build people, we want to develop them, regardless of what their career field is, we sit there and we go, okay, step 1, develop yourself. How do you develop you as an individual? Step 2, how are you going to develop others around you? Then as you start to branch out, you go, how do I develop this organization, this unit? And then finally, how do I develop ideas? We have in our DNA 4 tests. We have research, we have tests, we have development, we have evaluation. In our DNA is innovation, right? And whether that is incremental improvement or whether it is disruptive innovation, how do we teach people to critically think and develop ideas and to not just stop and go, that'd be a great idea, but instead of to say, okay, that'd be a great idea, and. So when you are today hearing from people that are going to share with you more functional values and competencies that they're looking for, hey, I need this in an engineer, or I need this in my logisticians, think about the overarching institutional values that we care about. Our core values of hey, every single day we put on this uniform, this is what we're doing. But when I'm walking in and talking to our teammates, I'm looking to see how are we managing our resources, how are we improving the unit, how are we leading people, how are we executing the mission, and then when we sit there about what does deliberate development look like through the life cycle of an employee, that is going to come down to, okay, you have to develop yourself, you have to develop others, you want to develop your organization, and then you want to develop those ideas. So hopefully that kind of helps give you a framework and be able to sit there and go, okay, this is where I can categorize areas. So with that being said, like I said, Miss Argueta, she is our Chief Personnel Officer, and I asked her, okay, ma'am, it's your turn, wave the magic wand, what would you like to see to help with our talent gaps? A couple of the things that she shared was as we partner with educational locations, being able for us to come to you to do fairs, right? And be able early on in someone's career to share, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you can be part of here at the center of the aerospace testing universe, right? We love opportunities to come out. And now that we have the pandemic coming down, we know that nationally that will end in May. We would love to have those opportunities to do that and partner with you to help share. Because that's how I joined. Someone came to me and explained to me what it's like to serve, right? I'm first generation American. I had no idea what that looked like. And it took someone coming onto a school and explaining to me, the school welcomed outside the base, and I was able to get exposure to that. And we do career fairs, but we want to be able to build relationships with your professors, with your professionals, to help them understand, hey, in your backyard, this is what we're doing, and this has to do with national defense and security, right? And you're fighting for your next generation, for your children. The fight is right here, and please come join us, and please be part of that. So that was the first task that she talked about. And then what we'd love to do is continue to establish co-ops, right? So the cooperative educational experiences. And when you see educational locations that do this, where not only are as a individual, I'm gaining experience and I'm gaining my credits towards my goals, but I'm getting work experience, and I'm starting to understand what it's like to be maybe part of this profession of arms. We have this to some extent through the Air Force. We have what's called Palace Acquirers or summer interns, but we'd love to partner more with schools to do co-ops because we want them to get excited about what it looks like to be on an Air Force installation. And when less than 1% of people serve, they don't really know. We want to have that disconnect. We need to shorten that gap and help people understand. Sometimes when I tell people I serve in the military, they're like, really? You serve and you're married and you have a dog? Like, I didn't know you could do those things. And so we want to try to do that. And one way I think we could really do that would be through co-ops. And then when we have our wish list, and this is based on our human capital improvement plan, we talk about the disciplines that we're seeking, and we do talk a lot about STEM. We have a huge emphasis of STEM, and we add that A sometimes for STEAM because we know that A helps us with the critical thinking, and we know that creatives can help us with innovation, but we're looking for computer scientists. We're looking for IT specialists. Mr. Cook's going to come and talk to me after this for a couple minutes to you from a cyber perspective on what their gaps are. But we're looking for even administrative. You sit there and you go, okay, hey, nope, I'm a great project manager, or I'm really, really great at working through tasks, but I don't see myself working on a base. We have thousands of administrative positions that we need to be able to fill to provide that combatant capability. And that's huge. And then the last two ones is think about program management, logistics management, security admin. Those are things that all tie to supporting tests. and of course our wage trades. So Sarah got to talk to you a little bit earlier about manufacturing and about automation, and that's huge, right? How do we partner people with machines and help people to understand what type of career progression they can have? And we have, in the afternoon, you'll hear from maintenance, and we can talk through the amount of maintenance workers right now that are retirement eligible and where we see we're gonna find that gap and what that's gonna look like. So our workers and our mechanics, that's a huge thing that we're trying to be able to help people get from these different levels of proficiency. How do we walk them through those areas and get them to be deliberately developed is huge. And those are the challenges that we face. I know that on the outside sector, those are the civilian sector, we talk a lot. What are those challenges? And but we are so grateful to be part of the aerospace community, and we really are excited to be able to share with you what we're looking for and where we can really partner. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an understanding from like the big Air Force level. If anyone has any questions, the beautiful thing is that a lot what I talked about is published, right? It's out there. You can see our foundational competencies that we're looking for. You can see our performance areas and how we grow and deliberately develop our workforce, right? And then we can talk through those specifics, but I'm happy to be able to answer any questions offline. And once again, just like to say thank you so much for being here. So, yes, yeah, what's your question? So, great question. So the competencies and the foundational, the 4 areas of how do we develop ourselves, that is actually, if you do a Google search and you type in the Air Force Blue Book, the Air Force Blue Book talks about overarching for a big A airman, and that is a civilian or a military member, what we're looking at in terms of development. So Air Force Blue Book is where you would look for that. And Air Force Blue Book focuses on our values, and more specifically, the Air Force Brown Book will talk about those performance areas. So literally, there's an article written by our Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and I believe Chief Bass also republished it. So the Air Force Little Brown and Little Blue. So it doesn't have fancy numbers or anything, but that's where you can find those information, and I'd be happy to speak to any of that as well. So. Sure. Yes, absolutely. Yep. So very big into that. And what's beautiful is that human capital planning, right? It's always changing. Whereas we're going through talent management and thinking about how do we prioritize and what do we do. So that's a great point. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions from the group before I hand it over to Mr. Cook? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like Ridgecrest has a high
Yes.
school.
Yes, you're correct.
And Palmdale has several high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of years ago, I served on a county commission that looked at what is our true greatest export. And we were looking at the aerospace valley, and it turns out it was our kids. And I always found that stunning because the employers and the military go to great lengths to recruit, and then after they recruit, to retain a professional workforce. And industry strives to hire 5, and at the end of 5 years still have 4 working for them. In the aerospace industry, in the aerospace valley, if we hire 5, we're lucky after 5 years if we've retained 2.5. And yet we never target the development of our kids at the high school level who are already cultured in the missions of the aerospace valley and give them a pathway to come right back and serve. And I look at everything that was described by the colonel and you, but it doesn't matter if it's a public works project and the water, power, sewage domain, and then you get into flight test. There is a job and a great career in any one of those domains, and they all have to be filled. Yet we tend to not think of the kids in our own high schools at these bases, and they end up leaking. They leave. And then we spend all this money recruiting a workforce. And I think that needs to be folded into the conversation
Yes,
somehow.
sir. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and we do actually have a partnership with our local high school on the installation. We call it a work study, so it's similar to what I talked about with the co-op, but we do have some restrictions from a standpoint of their age. But we have multiple students that go and work in maintenance with us, and we also have a few students that are actually working in our child development center. And so it's great. Next quarter, we'll be having a student come and work in our marketing department. So for my portfolio, we have all of the personnel, but we also have all of the services. And so we have a marketing team that does all the advertisement for the events that we do, and we'll be having a high school student that's going to join that team and look through digital analytics and look at how you market and advertise for a population. That's a great point that we need to be able to, if you're on the installation, you've already been a little bit exposed to that, and how do we continue to grow that and be able to fan the flame and get people excited and say, okay, hey, how can I be part of this in some way? So I really appreciate that, and I think exposure, right? Exposure is a huge point, and then also once we do have someone in the system, what we find is that there's a gap in the middle. We have a lot of people that are very excited, but they don't necessarily have all the skills that they need yet. Or we have people that have had a great career and they have all the skills and that knowledge, but they're going to be close to retirement or already at retirement. And so what do we do in the midst of that gap, and how do we help people with this new concept of almost nano learning, with how can we continue on that process of development to make sure they've got the skill sets that will help us with whatever we're trying to do. And I mentioned this to some of you in the meet and greet. I've got people that are running businesses on the installation, and I've got individuals that are doing childcare development, and we got individuals that are doing education and training, right? That's our whole job here, is to help people understand as part of the workforce, you can get education, you can continue to grow, what are your goals, and then we'll help you. So we sit down with all of our civilians and we establish what's called individual development plans to help them get there, but often that requires more education and more training to help them in specific areas. So, yes.
To add to what the major was saying is that there's a K-12 STEM coordinator on main base, Helita Van Hoy, who does a lot of outreach work, and she has a separate budget for doing K-12 STEM work, which she does throughout Kern County and through the whole Aerospace Valley region. We also have set at the Air Force Research Lab. I'm the person who does the outreach for both primary and secondary education, meaning university level education. And we have in Lancaster set up a bachelor's degree program in both mechanical and electrical engineering to feed graduates, to give people, after they do their first 2 years at a community college, to be able to get their bachelor's degree in either mechanical or electrical engineering in a cohort type arrangement, with the idea that we'll be able to hire those people in and have people who are familiar with the area and be able to keep those people in the area. The biggest problem we have with that program is one of name recognition, where a lot of the students, local students, aren't aware of that program and they're not entering that. So our classes have been relatively small. We'd really love to find a way to be able to increase the number of students going into those programs, into the cohorts, so that we could increase the number of local graduates with those STEM degrees.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll definitely foot stomp STEM a lot, right? And this concept of how do we partner humans with machines, huge for sure. And there's definite gaps, and we see it across the industries. So, any other comments before I hand it over to Mr. Cook? Yes.
412 FSS for over 6 years now. You say there's, sorry, I'm blanking.
That's okay.
Big development for the people that work here for their future. I went for tuition assistance, and I was denied the ability to even apply for it.
Sure.
So I was wondering if that'll be approached today, how everybody will get paid for their stuff.
So yeah, what we can do is we can have an offline discussion about tuition assistance, and there's definitely some nuances that's very important for folks to know, and that's part of our education and training is making sure people understand the process for that. And I think the awareness, and we're really grateful this will be recorded, so if we have an individual, if we have an employee that says, hey, I realize I have a gap, I realize I have an area where I'd like to grow, or I just have future goals, right? This is what I'd like to do, then part of our role is making sure people understand, here are the processes, these are the programs that cover 75%, these are the programs that cover 100%, these are the different things, so I'll be happy to talk to you about that offline. So, absolutely. All right. Yes. One second, we'll get the mic for you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Use the mic, not for the room, but
just for online. No, we appreciate it. Yes.
So I just wanted to piggyback off of the question and the response, and that's one of the benefits of partnering with the community colleges as well, because we've got support mechanisms built into that would actually be able to leverage what you don't have, and that could support your employees as well.
Awesome.
So
yes.
Partnering, I know Sean and with Nicole, they'll be able to provide a little bit more insight with that same
Thank you.
support.
Yeah, and I think really the key is knowledge is power, right? So if you come in and you say, hey, I every single day when I meet with an employee, helping them understand, hey, you're part of the profession of arms. Did you know? ... And then thank you, because the stronger relationships that we have with you, I received my doctorate through an Air Force program, right? And I worked with a great school, a great college that sat down and said, here's what you're entitled to as a military member, right? So there's so many people to thank in that process of thank you for, Congress for giving me the GI Bill, thank you for schools that will sit down and help me understand those nuances, and then for having supportive, work centers that say, hey, if this is what your goal is, these are the skills that you're going to need to do. So it does take all of us to be able to do that deliberate development, and I appreciate that. So, Mr. Cook, are you ready for the hot seat? All right, sir, if we can get him the mic, and we'll introduce you to our deputy, who will speak more from a functional perspective on the COM enterprise.
Thank you. Let me just put my brain down here so I don't forget anything. Once again, my name is Mike Cook. I'm the Deputy Director of the 412th Communications Squadron, and I'm also an extreme introvert, so if it looks like I want to run off stage at some point, it's probably because I want to run off stage at some point. One thing I did notice, and thanks for the opportunity to come here and listen to all the folks, and also to share what we believe we need. One of the things I noticed is every speaker has talked about cyber so far, and that kind of falls right within our wheelhouse. If you're wondering what cyber is and what it entails, don't feel bad, because so do we. It's a very challenging field to try to capture what that is and what it means, especially from a perspective of how we utilize that to support the test wing mission. So just a little bit about myself, and this kind of goes into the topic of the day. I joined the military in 1989. I was entered as an electronics technician, a communications tech, working on comm equipment and shipboard data links and things of that nature. And you went through a training pipeline. You did, classroom learning. You did on-the-job training in labs, fixing stuff and troubleshooting, things of that nature. And that's how my career started. And over the course of the many years in the career field, for the most part, I saw a lot of changes in how we approach development. If you just want to, term everything we do, or what we're trying to get after is development in some form or fashion. At one point, OJT was, a very strong portion of that development portion of what we do in the career field. And then over time, you realize that, education is very important. Not so much just to teach you the career field, but just to make you more well-rounded, to develop yourself as a person, to develop those knowledge, skills, and abilities to be successful and grow in this career field. And so education became a very focus point in the career field of IT, cyber, communications, whatever you want to call it, because it has many names, but it all centers around, how we effectively use technology to get after whatever it is we're trying to do, databases, networks, anything, software, things of that nature. And then I noticed something very peculiar within the industry of the career field. Commercial certifications became, at one point the apex of development. So a lot of people went out and got commercial certifications in the IT, cyber career field. And at one point in time, there was a debate, what was more important, college education or certifications? And the debate was usually centered around whatever you had was the most important thing. I got a degree, so that's how you develop in this career field. Or if you had certifications, the advanced certifications, well, this is the apex of how we develop our people, and this is how you become successful. My thought was, why not get both? If you're saying that this is the most important thing and you're saying this is the most important thing, get both and develop a greater skill set and a greater base foundation for what you apply in your knowledge, skills, and abilities to get after this thing we call comm, IT, cyber, whatever you want to call it. And so that was kind of debate for a while, and then we started being overcome, immersed, and overwhelmed by technology. Technology moves faster than we can learn it and apply it. I think most people accept that in today's modern world. For instance, all you got to do is pull out your cell phone and use it, and then watch your kid use it, and he or she uses it better than you do. I mean, they're doing all kinds of stuff, right? So we're kind of getting overwhelmed by technology. It's very hard to keep up. And so also very hard to keep up with developing the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need to be successful in this career field, anywhere you go, but especially within the test wing and how we support the test mission, because it's all technology, it's all innovation, everything that, for the most part, most of the things that happen on this base is facilitated through comm, IT, cyber, whatever you want to call it, databases, software, networking, things of that nature, and many others too. So over the course of time, now when I talk to folks who are looking to kind of pinpoint what they need at the working level, it's not so much education, that's a portion of it by all means. It's not so much certifications, but it's the ability to actually become familiar and comfortable with the technology and then actually apply that knowledge, skills, and abilities to do whatever job it is. So what does that mean? It means coming in with the ability to actually know how hardware and software works, how it works together, developing that skill set as far as how does the network and the servers interact with each other to provide the databases and the networking that supports the test wing. How does software work? How does, software development, engineering, testing, how does all that work to get after what we need to do to support the highly complex, technically innovative mission of the test wing? So that's kind of the focus now. Certifications are great. It provides a level of proficiency that, you have dedicated yourself to the profession and you've attained something, so you develop those knowledge, skills, and abilities. But I think the key point today is we're really looking for the programs, any developmental program, to provide the members that come into the door day one with the ability to become comfortable with how things work in technology. Not so much, with just the foundations to build upon that over time, but with a better understanding of, how things interreact, interconnect, how they perform, and things of that nature. So we're getting into higher level skill sets, which kind of aligns with our career field. When you come into the IT or comm career field, the expectation is you're actually coming in with a foundation of knowledge a little bit higher than other trades. Computers are, somewhat complex, networks are somewhat complex. So the baseline skill set is a little bit higher. Unfortunately, we don't always get folks in with the prerequisite knowledge, skills, and abilities for what we're trying to bring them in as. And so they come in a little bit lower. And what we find is there's so many folks in the commercial world and other entities across the DoD and whatnot, they're also looking for the same talent that we are. So if we don't have the ability to attract, recruit, hire, develop, and retain the folks successfully, we're in this constant search for the skills and abilities that we need. And part of that is, bringing them in at a competitive level, pay-wise, so that they, come in, are satisfied, and want to continue to work with us and develop in their careers within our workforce or within our organization. So that's some of the challenges we have. So I guess the basic skill sets and developmental programs, software engineering, software development, testing, through the college programs, network architecture and network engineering to to interconnect the systems and the hardware and how they work together with the software. That is something that we look, very highly upon. And then cyber. That is the newest buzzword in comm IT. It's the next level of development. But what does that mean? So the cyber is a very wide field. You, for the most part, lop a lot of different things into cyber and call it, cyber under that umbrella. But just basic understanding of network and software security, basic understanding of perhaps cyber forensics. If something bad happened, how can we identify it, reconstruct it, deconstruct it, and figure out what happened so we can ensure that doesn't happen again. Very important in the mission that we do, because we facilitate innovative tests. We house proprietary information. We house government information that we don't want out there for everybody, right? And so those skill sets, I think, are key as far as when you walk in the door with any IT, comm, cyber organization anywhere, having that next level of development. It's good and great to have a foundation. We don't want to discourage that, because many people grow not just, from the cyber egg, so to speak, or IT egg. Many people come into organizations in different career fields, but throughout their career, they get introduced to IT, computers, and that's where their passion starts to lay. And as was mentioned previously, we really want people who are passionate about what we do, because what we do is very, very unique in the cyber IT career field, but also unique in how we support the test mission, which is in and of itself very unique. It's an awesome mission. Just to think of what the small part that we have in as far as the impact to the nation. So some of the challenges to that, as I mentioned before, is just getting the folks in the door, and being competitive when we recruit and hire folks. But also, the other challenge I think we have is IT, comm, cyber, whatever you want to call it. There's so many specialties within the career field that it's very hard to be the master of all. You cannot possibly know and become a subject matter expert in all areas IT, comm, cyber, whether it's networking or databases or cyber defense or project management, information assurance, system administration. There's just too many areas in order to be a SME in all. But you can certainly have a wide foundation of knowledge, skills, and abilities, and then specialize in one of those areas in order to get after what we're trying to do. And so that's kind of what we would encourage. Just kind of realize that if you want to, become the master of cyber, you're probably going to have to spend a lot of time and effort just trying to get there. And once you do get there, you'll probably find that innovation and technology has overcame what you have learned, and now you're no longer as current as you may think. And that's one of the challenges we have as well. Just maintaining the level of proficiency, not only for what we do now, but also what we're going to do tomorrow and then 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because technology is moving at such a pace we cannot possibly keep up with it, especially with the changes that are placed upon us as far as just simple stuff, organizational changes, technological changes, the environment outside of what we can control, the local area workforce and the economy and things of that nature. So those are some of the things that I think we would look to get after and encourage you folks to take a look at. Traditional foundational comm IT programs are great, but we kind of need folks who are fast-tracked a little bit in their knowledge, skills, and abilities so they can come in and immediately become performing individuals for what we do, because what we do is a little challenging. Okay.
What are some of the most common job titles? What skills are you recruiting for?
Okay, so within the 412th Communication Squadron, I'll just go by some of our larger offices. So we are looking for folks who are knowledgeable in server operations, and this is some of the senior level positions. Networking, network architecture, things things of those natures. Systems administration for the IT systems that we manage. We're also looking for entry level positions, the traditional what you think of help desk, comm support stuff, touch labor, help desk support, things of that nature, remote login and fix problems, things of that nature. So those are some of the larger areas, and then we also have a relatively large software development and test office, if you will, and that's another challenge because if you know anything about comm and IT and cyber, good software developers and testers, they're in very high demand, and so they can they're very competitive across the area as far as their skill set and their the need, supply and demand. So those are some of the areas that are prominent. Some of the lesser technical aspects of what we do, IT project management and IT planners, the ability to understand what a customer needs and how to facilitate that, to build that and provide that to them. So traditional project management, knowledge, skills, and abilities as well. That's another area that we have that is that we look for. And then of course, cyber defense, whatever that, however you want to call that, but the ability and the knowledge of how to protect software applications, databases, networks, systems, things of that nature are some of the areas that we would highly look for.
I saw some folks going to school. What kind of systems do you have in place for internal development of your incumbent force?
So we utilize one of the things that was mentioned earlier, individual development plans. In fact, I'm a very big component of IDPs. Throughout my career, I know they work. The aspects of an IDP is basically that's your tool to let management know what you feel you need to develop, personally, professionally, whatever the case may be. And you do that by identifying short-term goals, long-term goals, and then what you need developmental-wise, whatever that means, whether it's professional certifications, on-the-job training, education programs, whatever it may be, what you need to get after that. And so we have IDPs for all the civilian workforce within the squadron. We also have a training budget that we kind of pinpoint and try to focus on what the needs are. Within this career field, there are certain certifications you need to do the job. So we pinpoint the members who need those and get those members in those courses and get those certifications so they're able to actually go out and perform. We also encourage the use of there's a lot of free programs available to the members of the Air Force and the civilians in the Air Force. So there's a lot of developmental opportunities provided by the Air Force. We encourage members to pursue those, especially if they align with your IDPs, your development plans. And so mainly it's just the focus on, hey, take control of your career, let your leadership know what you need to develop, because if they don't know, they can't facilitate you getting those aspects of development that you'll need. So those are some of the mechanisms in place that we have. We also have within the individual shops, there's shop training programs, OJT, and programs to help them learn their role, day-to-day role, and what they do within the squadron to support the mission. So there's individual training plans within the shops for whatever area they're in. So those are some of the tools and techniques we use to develop our workforce. But a lot of it is, encouraging folks to take advantage of all the great opportunities that are available, not only the ones that we pay for, but there's a lot of free ones as well. Okay, great.
Yes, sure.
So I take one big step back, and excuse if these are super basic questions. But your unit has both Air Force personnel and civilians.
Yes.
Okay. And the Air Force personnel are hired, they're recruited, and they find them, are they trained before they get here? Or are they trained here?
No, they both. So
okay.
They do a follow a training pipeline for the job that they have been signed up for in the Air Force. And there's a curriculum and the schoolhouse curriculum. And many of the folks, the military folks who come here, have to come here with specific certifications to do the job they do. So when they get here, they already have some of those baseline certifications to do the baseline work that's required of them. But once they get here, they're also included in that workforce development within the squadron. Encourage them to let their supervisors know what developmental needs, the goals they have. They're part of our training program as far as the budgeting for classes. Most of the classes that are available that we send our folks to, it doesn't matter if you're civilian or military, both gain value out of them, both develop from the training that we provide. And so from that aspect, it's essentially the same.
Okay. All right. And then the civilian folks you hire, are they from where? Are they from Antelope Valley? I mean, you put it
from wherever we can attract the talent. So like I mentioned before, it's very important that we attract, recruit, and hire. People will think we need to recruit and hire. Well, there's more aspects to this here thing called development than that. It's very hard to attract somebody from, let's say, Florida to come to Southern California, and when they get here, it's not exactly the Southern California they see in the movies, right? There's no beaches, no palm trees. It's a different aspect of Southern California.
A lot of sand. Yes, right.
So we have hired folks from the East Coast. We've hired folks from that were working overseas. We've hired folks from Hawaii, the local area. We have hired folks from the Midwest.
So even for the civilian workforce, you do recruitment all over to come do specific jobs here at. And then do you work through contractors or not so much through contractors? We're from Ridgecrest, so China Lake, a lot of contractor work. But here, not so much.
So there is a significant contractor workforce on base within our squadron. We do have a couple of offices that employ contractor support, but it's relatively a small percentage when you compare the entire squadron. But yes, we do have a small presence of contractor support that supports the 412th Communications Squadron.
Okay. And last question is, is there any preference for local area students, for instance, or is it pretty much you'll take whoever is the best out of anybody across all 50 states?
So I would say yes to both. We have a large need. There's relatively high turnover. We absolutely target local folks because it's a little bit quicker to get them on board. They're local. They already know that this is not the Southern California you see in the movies, and for the most part, they live here, they want to stay here, and this is an opportunity for them to get a career and grow in their career. We have such a significant turnover and open positions at any one time that it'd be great if just the local, if just the Antelope Valley could supply all of our employment needs, it'd be phenomenal. But what we've seen, I think we've discussed, we lose a lot of folks because they go elsewhere. We may not necessarily be the number one choice, especially if you grew up here and maybe you want to go get a job in Hawaii. Who wouldn't want to get a job in Hawaii, right? I mean, Hawaii's nice. It would be phenomenal if we could attract all the talent that we needed just from let's say, the local area or Southern California or, the West Coast. But in actuality, we need to open the borders a little bit wider than that just to fill our positions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you have internships?
We do. We have civilian internships. We have a program that we bring folks in for the summer, and we've actually had a great deal of success with that. Not only do they come here and intern and provide some great value for the short period of the summer, they come back for multiple summers, and we've also brought them on as full-time employees, and regular employees. They've came back and joined our workforce.
And what about remote working? Is that something you support, or they need to be on the base?
So I would say it would depend. It's not. So a lot of the work that we do, and I'm not saying we wouldn't support remote work or our teleworking, because we do allow folks to do that when needed. But a lot of the work we do is you kind of have to be there to install printers, and you kind of have to be there to, troubleshoot a server. You kind of, so some of the career subcategories of comm, IT, and cyber facilitate being able to telework, especially like software developers. If you got a computer and you know how to do that, you can do it from anywhere. But a lot of the work that we do, you got to kind of have to be there and troubleshoot and touch it and talk to the person. That, what's wrong with it? Well, it's a blue screen. Okay, so it's a balance, I would say, and so we have folks who do both. We have folks who telework in the local area, and we have folks who work pretty much every day. They come in and do the work we need, such as installing cabling and copper fiber to connect all the networks and systems we have. So, any other questions? All right. Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to all you folks, and welcome to Edwards. Hope you enjoyed today.
Awesome, thank you. So appreciate it, sir. And so we'll have a quick break if you need to use restrooms, and then up next will be NASA, talking from there, and then public affairs. So thank you so much.
We very much enjoy our spot here in the center of the aerospace testing universe. My name is Steve Jensen. I'm the Director of Research Engineering at the Armstrong Flight Research Center, which is just right down the road here. Go ahead to the next slide. Who we are, so go ahead to the next slide. There's 10 NASA centers spread out across the United States. There happens to be 3 in California, and we are the one, we all know where we are, right up the street. So go ahead to the next slide. What do we do? So our mission is to advance technology and science through flight. We pride ourselves not so much on flight tests, but flight research. Really, if you think about a triad of flight, wind tunnels, and computation, our role is that flight portion, doing that lower technology readiness level research and exploration in a flight environment. So we do flight, great experiment that they're sure is going to work, and when you actually put it against Mother Nature in the atmosphere, you learn all kinds of things. Next slide. As safe a manner as possible while still getting the data. We're very proud of that process. Again, we operate science aircraft, and we apply our skills and capabilities. There's things that you learn in flight that are the other side of NASA, the space side, is kind of envious of sometimes. And they often come to us and say, hey, we need to do this, but we need to do it quick, and we need to do it safe. Can you help? And absolutely we can. Next slide. So just a quick sample of our current projects. Go ahead to the next slide. This is called the X-59. This is a low boom supersonic aircraft. We haven't yet today, but I'm hoping at some point we hear a sonic boom. It shakes the windows. It's kind of awesome for us. It's not so awesome for the general public who are out there and have no idea what those booms are. And so this aircraft is designed, it's a very unique shape, to basically reduce that sonic boom to the sound of maybe a car slamming, your neighbor's car door slamming across the street, just a thump. This vehicle is being built in Palmdale. It's going to fly out here, and we're going to deploy it across the country, basically doing community response. We will fly supersonic over various cities across the country and then get public reactions to it. So this will be a very interesting mission. Next slide. Electric aircraft. This is, sustainability is a huge thing. They're not making dinosaurs anymore, so we are looking at ways of making flight more sustainable. One of them is electric aircraft technology. This aircraft is being assembled right now out at Armstrong, and it's really pushing the envelope on a lot of different battery-powered electric aircraft technologies. There's things that are unique to aircraft that are not being touched on or dealt with in like automotive electric vehicles. So that's this vehicle. Go ahead to the next slide. This one is very exciting. This was just awarded a couple weeks ago to Boeing, Sustainable Flight Demonstrator. If we're really going to make a dent in the emissions of aircraft, we got to go after the 737 and the A320. That category of airplane, there are thousands of them. And we've got to figure out how to replace that fleet with something that is 10, 15, 20, 30% more efficient. And this is an example of a way to do that. Those wings are at the root about 12 inches thick, which is very, very skinny. So there's a lot of technical challenges in an aircraft like this. We're going to be working with Boeing to fly these here in the coming years. Next slide. We do a lot of autonomous system work. This is a great place to try out and develop autonomy algorithms. We're very proud of our work that we did with the F-16 collision avoidance system that has saved a number of pilots' lives. We were very much involved in the development and test of that technology. Next slide. And advanced urban mobility. So the idea of having electric air taxis flying people around congested city areas, being able to hop across town in minutes instead of hours. This is coming. Commercial industry is working hard on this. How are we going to manage these vehicles? How are we going to manage the infrastructure? How are we going to manage the airspace? It's a big system of systems problem, so we're very much involved in that. Next slide. And then earth science, something I'm particularly proud of. Again, we fly all over the world. We have ER2s, we have Gulfstreams, we have our DC-8. We just purchased a 777, basically flying scientists from the North Pole to the South Pole and everywhere in between, getting data and studying our planet. Next slide. Okay, so that's kind of what we do, so what we have. So go ahead to the next slide. I'm not going to go through all the bullets here. These are our core capabilities: engineering, research. So again, we have engineers, but they are research engineers. It's a little bit different flavor. Our folks tend to be more broad than deep. I think I can say that without offending anybody. We don't have a lot of PhDs, but we have people that can move from a spacecraft to a supersonic vehicle to an airborne observatory and just figure it out as they go. And so that is definitely one of our core capabilities. Systems engineering and integration is another thing that we do. Atmospheric flight research, obviously, we talked about that. Our facilities, so we've got experimental and testbed aircraft, unmanned air systems. We've got the science platforms and obviously the airspace that we have. That's in the range and test facilities, which we've already talked about. We have a flight loads laboratory, full-size hangar where we take airplanes in and we can load them up in flight conditions. Kind of a national asset there. Go ahead to the next slide. We've got our support aircraft and maintenance organization. So we've got a huge group of aircraft maintainers and pilots, obviously, plus photo and video and everything else. The Dryden Aeronautical Test Range. So again, this complex that we're in, the aerospace complex, we manage a lot of telemetry and radar data in there. We've got simulation, world-class simulators for different systems, different aircraft. The simulators can be updated and tuned very quickly to simulate whatever new aircraft comes along that we want to test and practice with. And then again, our flight loads laboratory, mechanical, thermal, structural, dynamic, mass properties, everything in that facility. Next slide. Our testbed aircraft, we fly both Air Force and Navy planes, so it's a little odd to see F-18s flying around the airspace. Those are ours. We've got King Airs, we've got T-34s, ER-2s, Global Hawks, and Gulfstreams. So we've got a pretty diverse fleet of aircraft. Every one of those is old. Every one of those requires a lot of tender loving care to keep operational. And that's a special breed of mechanic to be able to understand, not just follow the manual, but really understand how to care for these old vehicles and keep them flying. Next slide. Our workforce, go ahead to the next slide. So we're about 550 civil servants and 1,100 contractors, so about twice as many contractors as civil servants. We're small both in NASA and small here at Edwards. Small and mighty though. About 70% of our workforce is engineering. That includes our pilots. So that's the 800 occupational series. We have both permanent and term civil servant hires. Other disciplines, contracting, and I have the job series 1102s, quality assurance, IT management, management and program analysis, and financial administration. So what you're hearing on the Air Force side is very true for Armstrong as well, just at a smaller scale. Again, contractors, about twice as many contractors as civil servants. And our organizations that have a large number of contractors include flight operations, again, the maintainers, the mechs and techs, engineers also. Engineering in my organization, we've got a lot of contractors. They basically augment the civil servant workforce, so the similar skills. The secret sauce sits with the civil servants, but then the team that actually does the work is often contractors. Facilities, maintenance, engineering, protective services, the whole gamut of disciplines there. And then information technology, cyber, right? That's a big thing for us too. Go ahead to the next slide. So somebody asked about internships. Actually, before I talk about this, I didn't have this on a slide, but I thought it was good talking about what are the challenges we see. I see, from my perspective, and I'm an engineering director now. A couple of years ago, I was actually our HR director. Don't ask. But it was a very interesting detour in my career that really, I think, helped me understand how the whole system works. The three challenges we have right now, diversity. We have a huge diversity challenge. We've struggled with that for as long as I've been at NASA, which is 25 plus years. We haven't really moved the needle much. So always looking for diverse candidates. Competition, being in the center of the aerospace testing universe, means there's a lot of other people doing the same thing. And a lot of those people are commercial and can pay a lot more. And so there's a lot of competition, especially for those maintainers, aircraft A&P folks. Really hard to keep them and retain them because we can't pay them what a Northrop or a Boeing or a Lockheed could. And then retention, right? If you go recruit, you're not only recruiting the person you're recruiting their family as well. And sometimes, you know, the person comes and they love the airplanes, and their family is trying to figure out where all the trees went. And, you know, they have kids or whatnot. They want to be closer to family and they leave. So I love the conversation about recruiting locally, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Internships. So we've got sort of two types of interns at NASA. Pathways is kind of our primary. Pathways interns are civil servants. So they apply through USA Jobs. I'm not going to go through all these bullets, but basically they apply through USA Jobs. They serve a number of terms, and then if they do well, it's kind of an extended interview. If they do well, we sign a piece of paper and they become permanent civil servants. Apply through USA Jobs. There's now an OPM assessment that you take as part of that application process, and I put the nasa.gov link there for tips on how to get in that. This is a great program. Kids who come through here are awesome. I mean, they are really sharp, but they want to work for NASA, right? So go ahead to the next slide. So we also have OSTEM internships through our Office of STEM Education. They are not federal employees. They're basically hired as contractors. They're only here for a term. If they want to come back, they got to reapply. We generally hire them to do research and engineering tasks. The stipend is based on their educational level, and the application, how to apply is down there. These OSTEM interns, they want to work at Armstrong, right? NASA's great, but they want to work here because of what we do and what this Air Force Base is about. And what we find is that these kids are awesome, and they're excited about the work that we do. The ones that really rise to the top, we encourage to apply to be pathways. And then when they're pathways, we can bring them on as civil servants. So that's kind of our primary intake path. We also hire our contractors, and we also hire your folks from the Air Force. We tend to poach back and forth, I think. So that works out well for us. Next slide. I think that's it. I put some contacts there, so if you want to learn more about the center, the top link. Marie is our Pathways coordinator. She works on our HR office, so there's her email address. Randy is my deputy, but he's the liaison between my engineering group and HR on all things Pathways. He's very knowledgeable. And then Gilletta supports both NASA Armstrong and NASA Ames up in the Bay Area, but she's our OSTEM director. So, any questions?
For the presentation. I noticed that you had the internship component of it in the pathway. Great information. Have you guys explored the apprenticeship?
We have. We are very highly constrained because of the government system, the machine that we're in. So we have done, we call them para-engineers. We brought in like engineering technicians and whatnot and then brought them sort of in a structured way up to becoming engineers. We have not done a lot with like apprenticeships for local high school students and things. Again, we kind of lean on our internships to do that. It's a good question.
Thank you.
70% you said are engineers or in the engineering area. How many of those are engineering technicians? Or is that a certain amount of that or not very many compared to engineers?
Yeah, not very many.
Okay.
Yeah, not very many. Most of them are engineerings. A lot of our leadership are engineers. Our pilots are engineers. But yeah, like our flight loads lab has quite a few engineering technicians, but it's 20-ish.
So not necessarily a question, more to kind of pile on a little bit to the relationship that we have here on the installation. As you had highlighted, Air Force, NASA, the folks up at the Rocket Lab, lots of really similar things that are happening. But that team of those three organizations, we call it an alliance here. We do really intentional dialogue amongst those groups so that we're kind of in alignment. This education piece is one of those, right? I mostly wanted to say it because I always get kind of nerdy and excited. You had mentioned earlier the ground collision avoidance system. From a recruiting tool or a mechanism, or if you just simply want to get goosebumps one day, you Google that and look it up on YouTube. It's a really amazing tool that was developed here. That was a collaboration of folks in my uniform, active duty military, folks from NASA. Ultimately, it's and you may know more technical terms, right, than I will, right? But it's a tool that we installed on our F-16s that in a training environment, if that member passes out, that system automatically engages and will right the aircraft, right? And
Yeah.
to date, it's saved numerous lives.
Yep.
And that's something exciting that happens here in that group environment. So just wanted to kind of highlight that. So thanks for the partnership.
No, I appreciate that, and I'll foot stomp the alliance. Yeah, we are tenants on the base, but we very much appreciate what the Air Force provides us, and we love the alliance, and it's a great way to cooperate, collaborate, and make the most use of taxpayer dollars and all the smart people that are here. Any questions? Awesome. Thank you very much.
And I'll be brief as possible. I should have you out of here by lunch. My name's Danny Bazell. I am the Chief of Community Relations for the 412 Test Wing Public Affairs Office. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about is, we've got a lot of really smart people out here. We've got some brilliant mechanics, firefighters, security forces, all these types of people. We are our own city. We have our own public works department, so to speak. 5 fire stations, our police department, you name it. There's jobs out here in any career field. Our job in public affairs, think of it as corporate communications or whatever, it's our job to tell the story. Our job is to tell the story of not only the center of the aerospace testing universe, but also pass down messaging from Secretary of the Air Force's office on down through the Department of Defense, Air Force Materiel Command, Air Force Test Center, etc. A lot of people don't think about when they're in college or in high school even, going into the public affairs field. My personal unbiased opinion is that we have the best job in the Air Force because every day is different. We make history here every single day, and our job is telling that story to the public as well as internal command information to our airmen, Big A airmen here on the base. We have in our department everything from the people that you don't see back here that are running the cameras, running the soundboards, back at our office that are piping the feed to the live stream that those of you online are watching. So we have videographers, we have audio-visual support, journalists, photographers. We have a select group of people that actually have the privilege of going flying with the Air Force and doing aerial photography. All these tests get documented in some way, shape, or form, and a lot of it is through these aerial photographers that are sitting in the back of an F-16 or a T-38, and they're filming what's going on during that test to make sure the weapon system drops correctly or whatever item is on the asset is documented. So for those students that are in creative writing, political science even, critical thinking, it's the ability to take a message and disseminate it out to the public in a proper manner and tell that story to the world of what we do out here on a daily basis. This is truly the center of the aerospace testing universe. It's the birthplace of the U.S. jet age, birthplace of our space age. I could go on and on ad infinitum, but a lot of people don't realize that these types of offices exist, and every installation has a public affairs department. In addition to writing the stories, publishing the photos, we have an entire digital crew that does nothing but maintains our social media presence. They keep our website updated. They update our app. There's an Edwards Air Force Base app available in the App Store that we pass news through and all that information. So anybody that's a web designer, they enjoy journalism. They enjoy operating cameras. They enjoy, you name it. I get the best job because I just go out and schmooze with people. So, but it's an exciting career field, and it is a career field that has a lot of rewards involved in it. And I encourage you to talk to your students and let them know that these kind of opportunities exist out here. I'm also the person that's responsible for setting up visits, like Major Moyer mentioned earlier, the career fairs and things like that. We just did a career fair at the California Aeronautical University in Bakersfield last Friday. So we have the ability to bring subject matter experts to you, and we have the ability to bring interested students out here so that they can see what goes on here. I've got a group of high school students coming out in a couple weeks from Oxnard High School Junior ROTC. We're going to take them to the engine shop and show them, let them talk to our jet engine mechanics, show them what these people do, and then they're going to watch a live test firing of an engine inside of an enclosed space, where literally from me to Dr. Hancock here, there's a massive engine in full afterburner while you're watching it. So reach out to me through community engagement on our website, and if you want to bring groups of students out here, I am more than happy to do that and get them interested, whether they're college students or even high school students. The Rose Parade last year, not this last one, but the previous one when the B-2 did the flyover, the young lady that was flying that B-2 came out here to Edwards on a base tour when she was in 3rd grade. And now she's flying B-2 bombers. So that's our job. That's my job, is to get people inspired to know what we do out here, but also to let you know that these jobs are available and we need people. I have 4 openings in public affairs right now. So we have an entire graphics department. They do digital design, printing, graphic design. Most of the signs and things you see around the base, posters, all that, they're done in-house here by our graphics department. So, yes, Stu.
2 minutes on the bad day scenarios. And you know what I mean by that. From your perspective in your domain, you tell the story. But you all also have a huge responsibility during mishaps, protecting trade secrets, but keeping the public informed and your workforce. Talk about that domain, because it's so easily omitted until you need it.
So, correct. So we are also responsible for getting the story out in the case of a mishap. So if there's an aircraft incident, we have to draft up those statements to the press, do the press interviews. We have to brief the commanders that may be in front of a camera on what to say and do in the event of a mishap, what they can say, what they can't say. Was it a known item, or was it a asset, so to speak? were there casualties? All that kind of thing is taken in, and we exercise that on a regular basis. Crisis, we call it crisis management. Another part of public affairs that is along that line is the briefing slides you see up here from Colonel Caspers. That has to get cleared by our office before it can be released for you guys to watch. It's called Security and Policy Review. Is there anything in there that's untoward? Is there anything in there that's OPSEC related? Because we're responsible for operational security in the public domain. So there's a lot of things that go on in PA that you won't just think normally it's somebody taking a picture and writing a story and that's it. No, we do a lot. We do a lot of different things here. Thank you, Stu. Any other questions?
Yeah, what role does public affairs do with the civic leaders in the local communities, Palmdale, Lancaster, Mojave and stuff? So
okay,
share a little bit about that.
So that's my domain too. We have various programs. We have what's called an honorary commander program. We have a community liaison program. And then we have a speakers bureau where if you want a speaker to come out to your institute and talk about engineering opportunities, we have a speaker request form on our website. You can request speakers. I go out and I meet with various community leaders. I run all the way from Bishop down to Santa Clarita, Victorville, over to Bakersfield. So I've worked closely with congressional offices in the past, not in my current position, but in the past I used to represent a senator up here. We're as involved as we can be on the outreach side, but from you guys, I need to hear from you folks in the community what you want to see from us. You know, do you want to come out and get kind of an immersion into what we do out here? Do you want to bring a class out here? Do you want us to come to you? All that. If you hear a sonic boom and you want to complain, I'm the one that gets the complaints. So did that answer your question, John? Okay, so again, plenty of opportunities. We have camera operators, we have aerial photographers, photojournalists, graphic designers, you name it, we got it. So thank you much.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take another break. So go enjoy those lovely yum-yums and water and coffee if you need it. Or if you've had too much, go to the facilities. Let me know if you need anything, and we'll see each other soon.